have the first medical practice in New York City to treat patients with medical cannabis. As you guys read her bio online, she's a double certified person in internal medicine and nephrology. I'm not a medical person, so I might mess up some of these words. But overall, we're very thankful to have Dr. Dara Huang with us this afternoon. So, if there's no further ado, we're going to bring her up.
So I'll be focusing more about medical cannabis in older adult care. That also is a politically correct term versus seniors, versus geriatric, versus older adult, I think is an appropriate term. And focusing more on, what is specific to the demographics of 50s, 60s, 70s, and plus. So what if I were to say that I had a magical pill or medication that would address pain, it would address arthritis, fevers, help with strokes, prevent blood clots, even treats pericarditis and heart disease? What would you say as far as medications that might be available? What do you say? Bring it on? That's what everyone is looking for. Some kind of magical pill that would be able to bring all of these things. And I guess that's why we're all here today, thinking about maybe medical cannabis, possibly. But I wanted to address that this is actually the history of aspirin. So aspirin is from the willow bark, and it was used for pain relief, and then over time, it was made into a pill, and now we see various uses for the medication itself. But it's really to highlight the fact that, these are plant medicines. So other drugs or medications that came from plants originally, a lot of them chemotherapy agents, aspirin, and in addition, opioids. So opioids, again, originally from a poppy seed, and over time, it's become used as a medication, and its direction as far as its use or misuse has been quite controversial. But I just wanted to more highlight the fact that cannabis is really just a plant. So this is a plant medicine extracted. There are a couple different subspecies, sativas, indicas, but there are a number of ingredients or compounds that are unique to the plant itself. But as a whole, it's just like any other, say, fruit, like an orange. You have vitamin C, which is certainly used to help treat scurvy, but then you also have other beneficial effects, such as the fiber in it, the citrus in it. There's other various aspects to that orange plant, and we have to look at it as an entire food or fruit or and plant rather than just one aspect. And there's other aspects of the plant besides the cannabinoids. The major ones are called THC and CBD, but there are, again, just as with the orange, there's a lot more to that other than just the individual components. And in a whole, what you would see is that different major cannabinoids, minor cannabinoids, and these other profiles together make up the medicine itself. So it's not just one pill for every ill, but the combination of these things in different ratios that have different therapeutic benefits, and I'll go that in detail in a bit. So I'm going to go into even briefer history of cannabis of over 5,000 years, which Martha already did an incredible job with, and I'll do it in one slide. Again, it was originally from China over 5,000 years ago. The Egyptians used it. It traveled through India, it traveled to Europe, and then it came to the Americas. And over time, so there's a ... it became eventually used as medicines. And so this is just a clever little comic that a patient had sent me, and this is where we are in modern history as far as the use of cannabis goes. So I usually get a little chuckle from that, so I think that's appropriate for today's talk. So it's more specifically in the older adult population. One of the big things that we see now is that there's not necessarily addiction, but overuse. So whether it is being used, not just medical cannabis itself, but just medications in general. Over 65 years of age, there's drug overuse, which is a growing epidemic, make up 13% of the population, and this is expected to increase in the next couple of decades, and more than half of the opioid prescriptions are given to the older population. More likely in this population that you have more drugs or medications that are prescribed, and a lot of them, this is the term polypharmacy, that you have more than 5 medications that are being taken, not only for pain, but for blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol. Other medical complaints that are used, chronic pain is a big one, sleep, depression, loss of appetite, and hypertension. And again, as far as the use of cannabis itself being used, we see a growing number of people using this as either an alternative or complementary or integrating it into their regimens. So without going into too much detail, there are medication effects with cannabinoids, and you just have to be careful when you go to see your physician or whoever is writing those prescriptions or recommendations for you, that this is really like any other supplement, like any other over-the-counter medication, that you want to be very careful, especially with those who have other medications that they are taking, particularly warfarin, which is a blood thinner. But the big, use of, again, primarily for using this as a medicine is primarily for pain relief. That's the biggest reporting reason, to help sleep, relax, muscle spasms, etc. And over time, with history, it's become a little bit more normalized, especially within the last several years. But there was, big, celebrity physicians also, where you did a lot more research, and then over time, there was more interest in looking at the evidence on the scientific or medical, level. And Senator Gupta, who you may all know, had recanted his earlier statements when California had passed, the use of cannabis. He said, no, absolutely not, and then changed his decision after doing some more research that, I've now learned the history, and I see there is some benefit to those, and so he had recanted on his initial statements. So one of the initial forefathers is this gentleman, Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, who I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of years ago, who described over 40, 50 years ago the structure of the cannabis, the CBD, one of the components of the cannabis plant, and also how it affects the human body and this cannabinoid system, which I'll describe briefly. So in all, just as we have a GI system, a respiratory system, a pulmonary system, we also have something that is called the endocannabinoid system. And that hasn't been taught in medical schools yet. This is all sort of surfacing within the last several decades, and there's 3 main components. So we naturally do make our own cannabinoids in our body. It's found in baby's breast milk, for one. And the idea of that is, that I'll go to in a second, but, we do have receptors within our brain, our nervous system, and our peripheral tissues, and on different organs. So when people think about, well, how is it possible that it has all these varying effects? It's because we have receptors that we naturally make, and it's a part of our entire body. And we naturally make endocannabinoids, and that bind to these receptor sites. So how cannabis works, as I said, the cannabinoids are made naturally for the body. It's called anandamide, and the other is called 2-AG, and we have these receptors that it then binds, and it has those downstream effects. And what is the purpose of endocannabinoids? In short, it's to relax, to eat, to sleep, forget, and to protect. So what does that mean? That means that when we go in the middle of Times Square and we have tons of stimuli, people walking, we don't want to remember everything that we've seen for the last several decades. We want to remember, we have that stimuli, and we want to extinguish it. And that's the idea, that we need a way for our bodies to maintain homeostasis, to maintain that level of calm, and that's what our endocannabinoids do. And so what is medical cannabis? What is cannabis? What is this? This is the plant form of what we naturally make, so it's called a phytocannabinoid, of which I had mentioned THC and CBD are the main components. It mimics what we naturally make in our own bodies. And what happens is, because the molecular compound is very similar to what we naturally make, they go down the same receptors. And that's why we have those effects the way that our body naturally makes them. We have the plants that basically supplement what we naturally are deficient in. And this is important for the doctors in the audience, is that the reason why this is different from opioids and those painkillers, as far as opioids, you have a couple different adverse effects, including respiratory depression or overdosing, is because there's a part of the brain in the brainstem where if you stimulate that area, though that could have deadly consequences. Whereas for cannabis, those receptors do not exist in that area of the brainstem. So there is no overdosing, there's no tolerance, withdrawal, or physical addiction. And that's really important because as far as what we're dealing with on a national and even international level is that hundreds of people are dying every single day. You can't turn on the nightly news without hearing another story. And this is from opioids alone, and not necessarily because of addiction and personal failures, but because those medications are addictive to begin with. So again, with pharmaceutical opioids, you have thousands of deaths, but in cannabis use, you've had in over 5,000 years, zero. Not by itself. We're not talking about when it's mixed with other things, but by itself, again, it's because that part of the brainstem where the receptors don't exist, you don't have that respiratory depression if you would have in the opioids. And again, this has also been studied, especially in the areas where cannabis has been lawful. On the medical side, that there has been a lot of studies that report that with the laws changing and the use of cannabis that's been introduced to their state, that the use of opioids has now been reduced. And then I just want to sort of touch briefly on that third category of synthetic cannabinoids. So Marinol, which is a pharmaceutical, is a THC-derived medication. It's used often for appetite stimulation in the cancer HIV population. Again, it is not the natural plant itself, but it's been plucked out, synthesized. I would also argue that synthetic illicit drugs are in that category. So you might hear of K2, you might have heard of spice. So when people think of what recreational is, you have to sort of subdivide that into, is this the natural plant itself? Is it something that was created or made in a lab, or for recreational use, for medical use, for adult use? What is the whole controversy? I think as far as the governor adding it into the budget, and having legalization, I mean, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done and also defined as far as what the purposes are. So again, it's been normalized in a lot of ways, but still very controversial, still very much a hot topic. And currently what we have here is we have 33 states that are allowed for medical use, and 10. Recently, New Jersey had also not passed through legislation that they wanted to legalize for adult use or recreational use, and now New York is also looking like that, might be also the same case. And again, this is what could possibly look like, and this is what the concern is, that, would we consider this as medication? I mean, this was, right down Broadway in broad daylight, and, for me, I don't know if people are self-medicating, I don't know if people are using it to enjoy, but this certainly is not what we would see in the New York State medical cannabis program. Well, what about this? I mean, now you see CBD oils in the pharmacies, you see coffees, you see tinctures, in Whole Foods or other vitamin shops, and not nearly as as overt as the picture on the left, but is this medicine? Because certainly people are getting things online or in, local stores. So again, you'll see that in a lot of health wellness products and marketed as such, over-the-counter medications, hemp oil, is that safe? CBD oil. So again, just do your due diligence. Happy to speak to anyone, but also just be aware that there is, very specific motions and laws when it comes to medical cannabis and how that separates from what you might see. And so, is cannabis real medicine? There were, studies that have been done that took a lot of studies, put them together, and the most useful that they've seen so far. So anecdotally, yes, for a lot of different ailments, but more specifically, the most robust evidence has been for cancer, especially with chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting, for chronic pain, and for multiple sclerosis as far as their muscles go. And then just to talk briefly about the medical marijuana program itself. Again, it's not as easy as for me to write out a prescription for an opioid, but the process is a little bit more prolonged as far as being qualified for. Right now there's 13 qualifying conditions. Chronic pain was one that opened up 2 years ago, but there was the original 10, including cancer, neuropathies, IBD, which is Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. More recently, last Veterans Day was PTSD, and then earlier that year, opioid replacement. And just as far as things for a physician to consider when you're talking to any patient, and for one to discuss with your doctor is, have you used it before? Are you taking anything else? What are your medications? Age, status of, the patient, and, what the different forms are. So as Martha had shown, there's different forms. There's no smokable form, so there's no lighting up, there's no fire, combustion, and there's also, in this state, there's no edibles, meaning that there's no gummies, there's no brownies, or what you might imagine on the West Coast as jars of, flour and what looks like, what you might find in a traditional medical, tea shop. And this is what a prescription looks like, a recommendation looks like. So what I do is I speak with my patient and recommend whether it would be a higher THC, a higher CBD. Again, both have its own uses, or even a combination of the two. The pharmacists at each of the dispensaries are also very knowledgeable in providing guidance as well. And as far as the program itself, as of a couple days ago, there's a little over 2,200 practitioners in the entire state who are currently registered, and over 95,000 patients have been certified. This is since the program started. So the first dispensary was in 2016 that had opened, and over the course of these last couple of years, it's the program has grown. But we also have to consider that New York State, and this is not just in the city, you have almost 20 million people. A good majority do have pain, and as far as physicians go, in the entire state, 80,000 practitioners. So again, trying to find someone who is knowledgeable. Again, there's the website that you have a list of providers, who are certified. But if you do the math here, it comes out to about 45 patients per doctor. Not all doctors have those numbers. My numbers are in the in 3 digits. So you want someone who hasn't just seen 1 or 2, or has just started this, has good knowledge of where to go and how to recommend for your particular needs. And the process is this: is you see a practitioner, you would register online, receive the card. There's a temporary card that would come initially, and with that you can go to the dispensary, and the hard card will be mailed to you, and then you would be able to buy at one of the dispensaries. Again, there's no smokable forms and no edibles, and Besides having capsules, oils, and vaporization, Martha had shown, there's also sprays now, as well as teas. Some of the other dispensaries, and I'll show you a picture, where they also have suppositories and topicals. And as far as just the benefits in older adults, again, you know, I mean, I can't underscore how important this is as far as the number of medication one takes to avoid those interactions, and to really add this as part of, or integrate this as part of your medication regimen, without it being really a medication that a pharmaceutical, typical pharmaceutical, because this is really a natural plant medicine. So decreasing pain, anxiety, helping promote sleep and appetite. And then this was an article that was in the New York Times. Again, it makes it look a lot scarier than it really is, but the woman on top, that's vitamin water. But they made it look like it's, you know, much more worrisome. But really, as you see what the products are, tinctures or even sprays, and in the oils, again, that's unique to New York State, not in other states where you might have, you know, the smokable forms. But this is, you know, what we have. And as a physician, I have a peace of mind that I know that each product is quality assured, there's consistency. We speak as far as in the medication itself, the ratios of what the different aspects of a component. So what I am recommending really is what is in the medication. It's labeled, it's barcoded, we know where it's sourced, where it came from, where the water is, and if there's any issues at all, then I can, you know, call the Department of Health and say there was an issue, and these are all reportable things. Everyone's on the registry, so if I see that someone's taking opioids, you know, I can also track that as well, and my name is also on that registry as well. Again, and so, you know, this is still on the forefront of medicine. You know, it's been a long history of it being used for therapeutic reasons, but there's still a lot more to learn as far as the combinations of major cannabinoids, the minor ones, the plant itself, and the ratios and the proportions of how much confers that therapeutic benefit. And just lastly, you know, as far as being, again, on the forefront of medicine, that, you know, there was an article, this is in a German study, where, you know, as far as can it help me with my memory. Again, these are experimental models, but it, you know, did show that in mice, and they took mice 2 months, which was considered an adult, 12 months, and 18, which is then older, considered older mice, and they administered THC, which again, one of the components of the cannabis. And they showed that there was some improvement with the older mice as far as memory, as far as cognitive decline. And so, you know, can we translate to the human population? Hopefully that research will be done. But at least it's, you know, it's good to know, reaffirming to know that these studies are being done, and there's still, you know, much more to learn, but I'm excited to sort of be one of the pioneers of this as well. And I thank you for spending the afternoon. So if there's any questions.
And on the Greenburgh Library website, there is a whole section for health, and also on the senior services, older adults page, there is a link to all of the different health modulations. One of them is a non-medical prescription. All of these herbal things that you find at the pharmacy or at a health food store, and it's like a Consumer Reports. They've actually gone and looked to see what is really in there. So for instance, I get my Boshin Loan Ocuvite for my eyes, right? I get it at BJ's, it's a great price at BJ's. And I thought, is it really helping what I need? You know, it's a supplement to what my doctor has given me. And so I went on and looked, and it says that it really does have what it says it's got on the label. A lot of the stuff's fillers, or it's got a lot of other things in it. So there are ways to also, besides reading and keeping yourself informed and talking to your doctor, there are ways to find out, and we do have the links on our website for you. Or you can just ask the librarian. So I'm going to hand the mic over.
I thank all the folks who have shown up today. Most importantly, besides Dr. Wang and also with Mark McDermott, I do want to recognize Dr. Lynn Parodnik, Stuck in on me here. Dr. Lynn, just raise your hand. Everybody, another practitioner here in New York State. Thank you, doctor, for coming out here. Also, we have somebody from Oxygen. Isabella, she is here. They have a line of CBD products. If you want to know more about her company, you can just go there and speak to her. Cheryl Jackson from Cheryl Jackson Wellness, health and holistic coach in the CBD market. So if you want to talk to Cheryl, she's sitting here in the back with the hat on, came in all nonchalant today. Once again, if you want to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, just go to CODE420 events. And those of you who want to attend some of the senior or educational parts of the CWCB Expo, we do have discount codes if you want to register for that. But other than that, we thank you guys once again for coming out this afternoon. I am quite sure we're going to be doing this again in the very near future. So please, we'll make that arranged with the Greenburgh Public Library. And if there's no further ado, once again, thank you and good afternoon to you all.